In this video, I'm going to run through all of the main problems or complaints or issues that we get with each model of motorbike. The kind of stuff that's coming through our support. It's going to be completely honest, we're not going to hide anything here, and there's nothing that I'm going to talk about that should be out of the comfort zone of the average rider. I want to be clear, none of the models of bikes we rent out are unreliable. They're all reliable bikes, but there are pros and cons with each of them and things that you should know about them. So let's begin with the Honda XR 150, which is our most popular manual motorbike, but at the same time is also, in inverted commas, the least reliable motorbike that we offer. And it's also the easiest one for clients to make a mess of driving it. So the first thing to note with the XR, it takes a full 10 minutes to warm up. That's no joke. And in Hanoi in particular, the weather is extremely variable. It can rain, it can be sunny, temperatures all over the place. The bikes struggle to idle well on the test drive. And we're not a company that will go and make it run really, really well for your test drive. We'll make the bike run well for when you're out on the roads, which is actually a guess for us. So the first thing to note is this bike will always, always, always cut out on you in our Hanoi office when you are test driving it. Don't worry about that. Now the starting technique for these bikes is 2 seconds on the button, then gas. 1, 2, gas. A little bit of gas, not a lot. Now you'll note, if you do gas and the button at the same time, it's not going to work. Now on any model of bike, you have, roughly speaking, 3 to 5 minutes of electric start battery life before it dies. So if you're always starting it wrong, your battery is going to run out very, very quickly. Now on top of that, on the other side of this bike is the choke. You got to put it all the way up for starting it in the morning, in the middle for, say, loading your luggage on, and then all the way down for normal driving. So if we just zoom back up here again, Oliver. The starting technique is actually choke up, 2 seconds on the button, a little bit of gas. 1, 2. Now it will sound terrible. Middle for loading your luggage on, and then all the way down for idle. This bike is idling quite well, but you see it's cut out. But when it warms up, after 10 minutes, it's going to be probably about right. As I say, it's a guess. So where is the idle screw on this bike? It's a little screw that will make the engine rev higher or lower when it's sitting still. And that is actually down here on the right-hand side. If you turn that in, it will go up. If you turn it so to the right, it will go up. To the left, it will go down. Okay? As I say, it's a guess from our mechanic team. And we'll set it for when you're on the road, not in the office. Okay, so the next really, really, really critical thing with the Honda XR is to check the oil levels. Now this is a bike that I say is reliable, but it is a Chinese bike at the end of the day, and it has a horrible habit of burning through oil. Most bikes will splatter out white smoke when the piston and the piston seals, all that sort of stuff, piston rings, are getting old. You'll see white smoke, and that is basically oil being burnt, so oil levels will drop. But the XR, for some reason or another, tends to hide the white smoke even when it's damaged, and so the oil will drop. If you have an issue in this engine, it will run out of oil in 2 days of driving, and it is the single biggest cause of breakdowns on this bike. All you need to do is check for oil every 2 days to make sure it has oil in it, and then this bike will basically never really break. If it's run out of oil, you've got no bike. If it has oil in it and it's dropping, all you need to do, buy a bottle of oil, there's mechanics everywhere, and just keep topping it up every day. Let us know so we can fix it or know about it for the next person. So to check the oil on this bike, the first thing is our mechanics are supposed to set this to be hand possible. If it's not on your pickup, then we'll get one of these and then make it so you can do it by hand. Unscrew it. You should clean it really, put it back in. The bike should be level if you can. And basically on here, you want between here and here. Essentially, you've got to make sure it has oil in. Don't care about the colour. Colour is irrelevant. It'll always go black very quickly on any model of bike. I know that's not what you read on the internet. Colour don't matter. If it's got oil in it, it's not going to break down. Okay? And then you do it back up by hand, and then you can do it again in 2 days' time. All right. To not get too bogged down on the Honda XR, the last thing that happens on this bike is clutch burn. And I have a whole video on how to ride a bike and not burn the clutch. Clutches are very easy to fix on this, but when customers go off into the jungles, it only takes 30 seconds of rubbish driving to burn the clutch on this bike. It's always customer error. We can test drive clutches so easy in our shops. Really, and it's inexcusable, but most customers don't understand the topic. So I recommend you watch a clutch burn video on top of this to get a better grip of how clutches work and why it's your fault, not ours. Okay, moving on. Let's go to the most reliable bike that we offer, and that is the plain and simple Honda Blade, okay? This bike is almost unbreakable, and even if it does break, it can always be fixed. But where are the problems? Just like with the Honda XR, this bike can actually run out of oil through oil leaks, or again, white smoke burning out through the exhaust, which is oil being burnt. Oil leaks tend to happen bang smack in the middle underneath the gearbox down here. So if you run your hand under here, like this, come out, I've got soot on there, but there's no oil. There's often oil leaks down there. But once again, if you're being super safe, you can check this bike's oil level, just like I did with the XR, every 2 days. On this bike, I wouldn't push it. You don't need to do it. On the XR, you absolutely should be doing it. Finally, the other area this bike sometimes breaks down is if you half-click the clutch. This is the same, half-click the gear lever. It's the same as pulling in the clutch. You're disengaging the clutch on the bike. The engine will rev up and it won't move forwards properly. Long story short, you'll burn the clutch if you're half-clicking. So make sure when you're driving that your feet are off the pedals, and then you'll be fine. Once again, no big deal if you do burn the clutch. It's just your fault, not ours. Okay, moving on to the Honda Winner, another bike which is unbelievably reliable, the most reliable manual motorbike in the country. There's honestly nothing to talk about here, it just works. Similar to a Blade, amazing machine. From there, we'll talk about the CB500X. Super, super reliable, and in our couple of years running this model of bike, we've never had what I would call a holiday stopping breakdown on one. But there are things that do go wrong with it. The first is oil level again. This bike can, for some reason, run out of oil. And the way you check for oil on this bike is to have it completely level, and you have an oil window down here. And you just want it to be on the lines or about halfway full. Got it? So once again, for what is essentially a 20-second check, there is no excuse for not checking the oil on your CB every 2 days. The biggest cause of emails on the CB500 is the chain. What happens is, on this bike, we haven't figured it out. The chain and sprocket set, there's really only one brand you can buy at the moment in the world, which is JT or Jomtai, and it very, very quickly becomes noisy and can even be a bit bangy. And people often think it's the engine, but it's the chain and sprocket. The good news is that it's harmless. It's not going to break on you, snap on you, or cause any damage to the bike. The bad news is it's annoying. If you loop the chain every single day or every other day, this noise will go away. We are trying to experiment with different sorts of chain and sprockets for this bike, but it's very hard to find anything. And as of now, it is an unresolved issue, but nothing that's going to stop your holiday. Moving on, the rear shock on the CB is an absolute disaster. It is such a bouncy bike, and all of the bikes, even new, come with a different bounce. Generally speaking, with shocks, they're broken when they're like pogo sticks, but the CB is so random they can be very pogo sticky straight out of the box. But because of this problem, every single ticket office will stock a spare shock on site. Our mechanics do tests for it, but shocks will break suddenly. You know, we could give you the bike now in the city. 20 minutes later, the shock could be a pogo stick and is suddenly broken. They break like this. So a really hard one for us to deal with. The way around the problem is just to stop packing with so much stuff. People have 2 side boxes, a top box. Personal opinion, if you've got any more than 15 kg of luggage, you should be renting a car, not a motorbike. This is my honest opinion. People put insane amounts of luggage on these bikes and then wonder why the rear shock fails on them. There's nothing we can do but keep replacing the rear shocks, but it is a thing. Once again, it's not going to stop your holiday, it just might pogo stick your passenger off the back of the bike when it breaks. But no big deal. All right, so the shock shaking. This bike's actually in really, really good condition. That's less pogo sticky than normal, right? Okay, just to talk a bit more about that, I guess. Preload, rebound, all this stuff. On this bike, no. This is not what's causing your bike to be bouncy or not. The bike is, you know, it's a great bike, but it's a cheap adventure bike. Whatever settings it may or may not have don't actually work anyway. Don't believe reviews on the internet. Okay, so the last complaint with the CB will come down to the boxes. Once again, we're always messing with brands, but boxes do break in terms of the seals around here, and also on the insides they have seals where they've sort of welded the thing together. So they can break in terms of water leaks. This is extremely hard for us to detect, and it's usually caused by either you crashing or a previous customer crashing. As of today, our mechanics do not do water checks on the boxes. So it's perfectly plausible. We give you a box, it hammers with rain, and it fills up with water. All I can do is say sorry. My recommendation is to be putting your stuff into plastic bags which are waterproof. So don't just put all your stuff in there assuming the box is completely sealed. When we do detect it, we will fix the box or replace the box, and we are slowly working towards a brand that's in Vietnam to develop a sort of more consistent relationship over time when it comes to boxes. The mainstream brands like Jivy, LS2, these sorts of things have all failed us over a long time. Keep in mind, our bikes take monumental amounts of abuse. It's not necessarily the brand's fault, but it's still not good enough for what we're doing. So we're working with the local brand at the moment and getting better results. But keep an eye on the water leak, waterproof, and put some waterproofing on your luggage when it goes in the boxes. Let's move on to the Yamaha WR 155. My personal favorite bike in this country, possibly in the world. I love this thing. What goes wrong on this bike is simply radiators. We put very, very expensive radiator guards on this bike to try and save it from crashes. But even those at the moment can break, and each time they break, we reinforce more and more and more and more until hopefully we get something indestructible. But if the radiator bends and develops a leak, the coolant will come out. If the coolant comes out, the bike will overheat. If the bike overheats, it blows up. Same for the CB500X, by the way. Though because it's a road bike, it's always having airflow. So even if a radiator fails, the bike will probably work, and it has a nice little heat sensor on here, and it will tell you that it's overheating. Keep in mind that you want the fan to be working as well. But on the simple dual sport of a WR, there's no heat. The heat sensor is a bit less reliable, and generally you can be off-roading, so there's less airflow. Very quickly it can spiral out of control. That's the reason, by the way, we sold all our CRF 300Ls, because customers couldn't deal with, let's say, radiator management when they were renting those bikes. WRs have been much more successful so far, but you really do have to monitor your radiator and make sure it doesn't have leaks in it after a crash. Apart from that, solid as a rock bike, best bike in the country or even in the world. Now, just to finish this video off, the consequence of a radiator. This was on a tour, wrong bike, over here. This bike. On a tour, radiator got bent, and to get out of the jungle, they continued to ride it. The result is the bike now has no engine. Right? So keep an eye on your radiators when you're off-roading. I hope this video has been helpful and very, very transparent. And I suggest you study the content here, and it will help you out when you're on the road. Thanks for watching.